In Mexico's southern region, it may seem unreal, yet locals often consume almost 2 liters of soft drinks each day. In particular, Coca-Cola. More and more locals are dying from eating too much sugar. The majority of people lack access to clean drinking water. The country of springs, which receives a lot of rain and has large rivers, is located in the center of the Chiapas region. How is it possible? What is taking place? In San Cristobal, in the surrounding area, street signs suggest a manipulation of indigenous communities. A water-guzzling factory symbolizes the exploitation of the region. A war over the basis of all life. And at the heart of it is a mega-conglomerate with ties to the highest ranks of Mexican politics. This is your life in weeks. There are rivers all around the Chiapas region. It also pours a lot. However, the populace still has very little access to clean drinking water. In particular, in San Cristobal, there's a lot of chlorine in the small amount of available tap water. Although this chemical tastes like swimming pool water and can be hazardous over time, it eliminates bacteria and diseases. Therefore, some individuals are more likely to purchase their water from these trucks. However, it's not always apparent where this water originates from or how safe it is to drink. Bottled water is available in supermarkets and shops, but Coca-Cola is always available, often at almost the same exact price. For some residents in San Cristobal and the region, it is simply easier to get Coca-Cola than water. So let's be honest. Imagine having the choice between undrinkable pool water, risky tanker water, expensive bottled water, or a cool, refreshing Coke. What option would you select? How then is this possible? Is all the water somewhere? Why is Coke so well-liked? What is the impact on the locals who typically consume 2 liters of alcohol each day? And how did this situation even arise? What is the politics of Mexico doing? Let's start with the initial query. A Coca-Cola bottling plant is located outside of town. This plant has been permitted to draw more than 1 million liters of groundwater per day since 1994. The city's water scarcity is mostly the result of this factory, according to a number of environmental organizations and locals. For background, there are about 216,000 residents in San Cristobal. In actuality, each resident of the factory uses 4.6 liters of groundwater per day. Some locals staged protests in the streets in April 2017 and September 2020, calling for the elimination of Coca-Cola from the area. Coca-Cola responds that their bottling facility is not at fault, as does its partner company FEMSA. There are other causes of water scarcity. Simply put, there is a lack of government investment, poor infrastructure, and climate change. That's all true. Historically, water for San Cristobal has been obtained from rivers and springs in the surrounding areas. Since the 1970s, the city's population has grown rapidly. Unfortunately, the city does not have a functioning sewage system or sewage treatment plant. Feces and garbage from the growing population are simply dumped into rivers. This makes the water undrinkable and harmful to health. In the area around San Cristobal, numerous forests were also cut down. Swamp areas were filled and fields were created. Climate change is also causing higher temperatures, and there's less rain. But when it rains, it really does. Extreme rainfall then removes fertile soil, and the ground becomes dry, hard, and infertile. Ecologically, the region was brutally run down, and at the same time, sewage treatment plants, sensible storage facilities, etc., were simply not built for decades. But none of this changes the specific situation. In San Cristobal, residents face a water shortage, despite a vast underground reservoir beneath a nearby volcano. Coca-Cola extracts millions of liters from this reservoir, authorized by CONAGUA, the National Water Authority, even though they acknowledge the effects of climate change and water scarcity on their website. In 2020, various groups and the city council called for revoking Coca-Cola's permit, but CONAGUA refused, citing other water sources in the area. Coca-Cola claims to address the city's problems by planting trees, constructing water tanks, collectors, efficient stoves, and orchards. But the question remains whether these efforts compensate for the daily withdrawal of 1 million liters. The prevalence of Coca-Cola in San Cristobal is not solely due to the factory. It reflects Mexico's high per capita soft drink consumption, with Coca-Cola dominating more than half of the market. Coca-Cola's popularity in Mexico has grown significantly over nearly a century. Coca-Cola's popularity in Mexico significantly increased in the 1970s, with a boost from their sponsorship of the 1968 Mexican Olympics and successful international commercials. The North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, in 1994 made Coca-Cola more affordable in Mexico. leading to a surge in business. In Chiapas, where nearly 30% of the population has indigenous roots, Coca-Cola launched local marketing campaigns since the 1960s, often with religious undertones. They sponsored local signs with models in traditional indigenous attire and language. These campaigns were defended as a sign of respect for the indigenous people by a FEMSA spokesman, as seen through Dr. Jane Page Pligo's research on the health of the local indigenous population at the University of San Cristobal. Coca-Cola's presence in Chiapas, Mexico, is not merely about respect for indigenous communities. In 2015, a controversial Coca-Cola advertising campaign depicted white people visiting an indigenous village and using Coca-Cola to save the residents for peace and unity, receiving backlash. Despite such controversies, the company has had remarkable success in Chiapas, thanks to a network of micro-suppliers and traders, making the soft drink ubiquitous even in remote villages. The population in Chiapas consumes over 5 times more soft drinks on average compared to the rest of Mexico or the USA, with indigenous communities being some of the most loyal Coca-Cola customers globally. Coca-Cola has become deeply intertwined with the culture of indigenous communities in Chiapas, with some shamans using it for healing despite its adverse health effects. The high sugar content in Mexican cola, over 200 grams in 2 liters, is 4 times the recommended daily limit in the US, 50 grams. Excessive sugar consumption can lead to dental issues, obesity, and various diseases, including type 2 diabetes. The indigenous population in Chiapas is at a higher risk of developing diabetes, influenced by genetic predisposition among other factors. In Chiapas, Mexico, the lifestyle of indigenous peoples has changed significantly in the last century, leading to displacement and loss of land due to environmental pollution. This shift has resulted in dietary changes, moving from homegrown fruits and vegetables to processed foods and sweets. The indigenous communities' bodies are not adapted to the high-sugar diet, making soft drinks like cola particularly dangerous. Diabetes is one of the leading causes of death in Mexico. But in Chiapas, the top 4 causes of death are all diseases related to excessive sugar consumption, with 3 of them increasing by over 60% within a decade. Many people in the region do not believe that Coca-Cola is unhealthy, as it has been a part of their lives since childhood. The Coca-Cola company acknowledges the health risks of excess sugar and claims to be working on reducing sugar content in its products. The situation in Chiapas is partly influenced by the power of Coca-Cola FEMSA, the largest franchise Coca-Cola bottler globally, which manages the San Cristobal bottling plant and 48 others across Latin America. The corporation wields significant influence in Mexico, partly due to political connections with Vicente Fox, who served as both the CEO of Coca-Cola Mexico and the President of Mexico, suspected of playing a role in renewing the bottling plant's license in 2005, though this cannot be independently verified. Many experts argue that during Fox's presidency, there were inadequate efforts to regulate the soft drinks industry despite the known negative health effects on the Mexican population. Efforts to impose a tax on soft drinks in Mexico faced significant opposition, not only due to potential revenue loss, but also because it implied that products like Coca-Cola were detrimental to health, akin to cigarettes. Attempts to display educational posters in doctors' offices and hospitals about soft drinks and healthy diets were thwarted, reportedly due to industry resistance. Instead, Coca-Cola and the Mexican government introduced the Ponte al 100 initiative in 2007 to promote exercise as a solution, downplaying the role of liquid sugar in health issues. However, research indicates that diet plays a more significant role in weight management than exercise. The fight against the soft drink tax continued after Vicente Fox's presidency. The Coca-Cola company sponsored a diabetes conference in 2013 where scientists spoke against the tax, with the organization the scientists belonged to having ties to Coca-Cola. The Mexican health minister also opposed the tax, having connections with various companies, including Coca-Cola. Despite these efforts, the tax was eventually implemented in January 2014, resulting in slightly higher soft drink prices and reduced purchases. However, there is still progress to be made. The Coca-Cola company dominates the beverage market in Mexico, selling various sizes of Coca-Cola and other soft drinks, including water. Bottled water has become a significant business in Mexico, With Coca-Cola's own brand ranking as one of the top water brands, this situation has left many Mexicans without access to clean tap water, forcing them to rely on expensive bottled water from Coca-Cola and other conglomerates. This can consume a substantial portion of family income, in contrast to the United Nations recommendation of a maximum of 3%. Despite seeking a comment from Coca-Cola on these issues, no response was received. Coca-Cola Mexico's website promotes water conservation, which some might find ironic given the challenges faced by residents in the Chiapas region and San Cristobal. Access to clean drinking water is a human right, a right that these people have been denied. Coca-Cola is not responsible for the disastrous water supply in the region or the rest of the country, but the company benefits massively from it. It pumps out millions of liters of groundwater that could otherwise be clean drinking water for the people of San Cristobal. And from this water, the company makes even more expensive water in bottles. But above all, millions and millions of liters of cola, and people from this region with indigenous roots and a genetically increased risk of developing diabetes drink over 2 liters of this cola and other soft drinks per day. Sometimes because the soft drink is an integral part of rituals and is considered supposedly healthy. And more of these people are dying from terrible diseases caused by excessive sugar consumption. To investors, the conglomerate's business in Mexico is seen as an incredible success that it wants to replicate elsewhere in Latin America. Okay then guys, if you find the video interesting and informative, then do like and share this video with your friends and family. Also don't forget to subscribe our channel Darkspex Media to stay updated, and goodbye.